Hey everybody, and thanks for stopping by. This is Sassery, and this is a video about my 7 favorite artists of my favorite comic book hero, the Amazing Spider-Man. Please feel free to leave your comments and observations and other things in the comment section. Alright, well, let's get started. First up on the list is Mike Deodato, a really great Spider-Man artist. All his stuff is really detailed, action-packed. Um, you see this, he brings out a lot of the flexibility in the character and a lot of the agility. Also, strong-looking Spider-Man, not skinny or anything like that. Very enjoyable to read. His storylines, he's a great storyteller. Always enjoyable to look at his work. Next up on the list is Alex Saviuk. Sorry if my pronunciation is off. Alex had a very long run on the web of Spider-Man, and one of the reasons I liked his work so much was, well, it was a very classical look in a time when Spider-Man's look, all the artists at the time wasn't really quite as classical. It reminded me a lot of John Romita Sr.'s work. But of course, he definitely had his own style. Again, it was a great eye candy, great stuff to look at. I know some people consider his work a little blocky, but I really enjoyed it. I still enjoy any chance I get to read any books that are drawn by him about our favorite webhead. Next up on the honor roll is Gil Kane. He had a very short run on the Amazing Spider-Man in the early 80s. One of the great things about Keith is that he had a great way of depicting Spider-Man when he was fighting. He had some great original poses that really helped you get into the comic. Also, the thing about Keith is that he did also do what I call a lot of tribute art, or some people call it rip-off art. When you take poses and scenes from another Spider-Man comic and reference early artists' work like Ditko and Gil Kane, whom he drew heavily from, and put in his own issues. In fact, I'd love to do a video on that, how a lot of Spider-Man artists actually just took poses directly from early issues, and if I get enough requests, I'll do that. Now moving on, we come to Mark Bagley, who has been acknowledged far and wide in Spiderdom as one of the greatest artists ever draw the character. He brings fully the full essence of what the Amazing Spider-Man is in his work. His work is absolutely gorgeous. I've never heard anybody say anything bad about his work, and I guess that would be pretty much impossible to look and see how beautiful his artwork is. The great run on the Amazing Spider-Man, a very long run on Amazing, a super long run on the Ultimate Spider-Man. In fact, when he left the book, I'm pretty sure that the book lost a lot of its readers because he was just such a tough act to follow. I first saw his Spider-Man working on What If Venom Possessed Spider-Man. I also saw him do an issue of the Web of Spider-Man. But he's just one of the greatest artists to ever draw the Amazing Spider-Man, and it is always a pleasure to look at his work and to see a master showing how it ought to be done. Now we're coming into the home stretch here. We'll come up to the next master, who is Gil Kane. Gil Kane was on the Amazing Spider-Man during the early, I believe it was the 70s. Did some memorable issues with Morbius, Dr. Octopus, as well as the death of the Stacys, Captain Stacy and his daughter Gwen, and he also did Green Goblin's death issue. He was often paired with John Romita Sr., who was a Spider-Man great. The only problem I had with that is that when John Romita Sr. inks the work, it many times looks like that he actually did the actual penciling as opposed to just inking. But again, that's not me taking away from anything. Mr. Romita, he's a great Spider-Man, one of the greatest artists to ever do Spider-Man. But going back to Mr. Kane, he did some great stuff in the 70s, and he really made Spider-Man jump off the page. His comics were the type of comics you would just read over and over because it was so cool and it was so expressive, and it just it was that compared with the story and his storytelling abilities just made you pick up his comics over and over again.
Spider-Man and his amazing.
Now we're down to the final two, and arguably the two most influential artists of the Amazing Spider-Man, Steve Ditko. Now, I'm ashamed to say it took me years to really appreciate how great a Spider-Man artist Mr. Ditko was. It took me years to really appreciate how much he put into the character and how much he inspired just about everyone who came after him. He's got to be one of the most copied Spider-Man artists, and he really set the standard for what Spider-Man should look like. Yes, he, along with the next gentleman I'm going to mention, really set the standard for what the wall color should look like and how he should be depicted in comics. He's definitely one of the greatest. He has been heavily referenced by Gil Kane, and also Keith Pollard, Ron Friends, and a whole bunch of other artists who just literally ripped off his work and just, I guess as a tribute, you know, 'cause they say imitation is a most sincere form of flattery, and just took his work and just, you know, used it in his own. In fact, some of the pictures I've used here as examples have been, you know, you'll be able to find in other Spider-Man works. But yeah, the great Steve Ditko, one of the absolute masters of the Amazing Spider-Man. Last and definitely not least, the great John Romita Sr. Mr. Romita's Spider-Man, along with Steve Ditko's, is by far the most imitated Amazing Spider-Man. He's pretty much my favorite Amazing Spider-Man artist. His Spider-Man is basically inspired and been imitated by just about every artist that's come after him. His Spider-Man has been his style of Spider-Man has been depicted in the advertisements, the cartoons, and by far he is probably the most recognizable artist, arguably, on the run. He had a great run in the 70s, and also I think his run was broken into two parts. He had a run before and after Gil Kane. Earlier part of his run, he was teamed up with Jim Mooney, and you know, the only problem with it, again, like I said, I said this about Mr. Romita's inking, and I guess I will say the same thing about Mr. Mooney's inking, not to disparage him or say anything negative about him, is that when Mr. Mooney inks, it almost looks like he actually did the drawing. But Mr. Romita's art is so strong, it came through, and he has, again, along with Mr. Ditko, drawn some of the most influential Amazing Spider-Man issues. He drew the issue with the revealing of the identity of the Green Goblin. Also, when the Green Goblin first captured Spider-Man, he also drew the issue with Spider-Man No More when Peter Parker quit for one issue anyway, being the Amazing Spider-Man. You see his inspiration in the work of his son, John Romita Jr., and who is Spider-Man great in his own right. Again, the great John Romita Sr., Amazing Spider-Man artist extraordinaire. And there you have it, folks. These are my favorite 7 Amazing Spider-Man artists. You know, leave your comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think I should have put some others on the list that you don't see here? I just ask you leave intelligent comments, not, oh, this list is stupid. If you disagree with something, by all means, no problem. Just disagree with me in an intelligent manner. And look forward to hearing from you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Want to see more videos from me? Go to my channel. More comic videos and more and music videos as well. Thanks, and this is Sastry. Thank you.